And today is May 7th, 2013. Thanks for joining us tonight. You're listening to episode 4 of Cop Block Radio. Cop Block Radio is a show dedicated to police accountability in the police state and is brought to you by CopBlock.org. If you'd like to submit a story or a question you'd like us to talk about, or you'd like to talk on the show about something, please be sure to email us at CopBlockRadioShow@gmail.com. My name's Eric. You can find me over at freerockpress.com and ohiocopblock.org. And with me tonight, I have Adam from Spokane Cop Block, and you can find them on Facebook if you just search for Spokane Cop Block, and should be able to find them without problem. Before we start tonight, I'd like to give a big shout out to our biggest fan, Slappy, from the comment section at copblock.org. He seems to be the only person who has commented on every single episode so far, so we appreciate the fan loyalty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Slappy. We love it.
Yeah.
Dedicated viewers.
Yeah.
Viewers.
Yeah, we'll see what if he actually watches. We'll see. So, a sheriff in Palm Beach says, we want people to call if the guy down the street hates the government, hates the mayor, and he's going to shoot him. I feel like we're on Sesame Street, that one of these things does not belong with the other. One of these things is not like the other. It's like hates the government, hates the mayor, and is going to shoot him. Well, okay. Gonna shoot him, I can see. The rest of them, not the same thing. I don't think thought crimes are high on the list. So
no, it just proves more and more of our police state that's just getting worse and worse at times.
Yeah. So the Florida House and Senate budget leaders have awarded Palm Beach $1 million for a new violence prevention unit aimed at preventing tragedies like the shootings that we've had recently in Connecticut and like Colorado. And basically this unit is going to be specifically trained deputies, mental health professionals, and caseworkers that will be monitored. That will have a 24-hour hotline that could come with a knock on the door and referral to services if needed. So it sounds like they want you to tattle on your neighbor, and
right.
They will send out people to come check on them. This seems like a bit of a breach of privacy and could be potentially dangerous.
I don't know about you, but most of my neighbors just aren't those type of people. I don't know where you live, but even if my neighbors thought it was a threat, I think they would come to me, not call the police. Be like, this guy's dangerous. They'd be like, dude, are you okay?
Yeah, the people who would call this type of hotline are definitely not the type that would be the neighborly type anyways.
Probably.
I mean, this is like the ultimate tattle on your neighbor for doing whatever, and I could see a lot of problems with neighbor disputes going down with this thing.
Oh, completely. It sounds like the trying to get everybody to hate each other type move here, basically. Rat on all your neighbors, hate each other, and don't come together as people, human beings.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like the hotline out of New York with confiscating guns.
Mm-hmm.
It just reeks of problems.
I just don't get how they got $1 million to do this when I know that there's tons of like suicide hotlines and other hotlines that you can call for stuff like this, but yet the city now needs $1 million to do it too.
Right, and this isn't people reaching out for help on their own. This is people telling that somebody else needs help for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. As it stands right now, it looks like it's just going to be a one-time earmark. So I don't know how far $1 million is going to go. I'm sure they're going to spend it relatively quick.
I see it going very fast.
But yeah, it seems like I don't know how to push this.
In the way that I look at it, I personally know a mental health counselor myself that I've known for years that I know would tell me that in this stance, you don't bring someone like that to that person's door questioning if they're okay. That's
Right.
not what one does. When one is ready to come forward, they will come forward, and until then, you can't help them. When you force it upon it, you're gonna make it worse.
Right, and even the sheriff of Palm Beach has acknowledged himself that this could be used, as retaliation in messy divorces or a dispute with a neighbor.
Oh yeah.
And I could see they want to keep like people's and autonomy and privacy,
Mm-hmm.
or respect their autonomy and privacy. But the second you have cops in at your front door, you're already outed that something's going on. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, if a cop ever came to my door, right there, the neighbors across the street already know something's going on. It's not like they show up out of nowhere. But apparently in Palm Beach, they're going to start showing up out of nowhere, which is concerning, especially if you have neighbors like mine,
Makes you
where
look bad. It does. You get the cops showing up at your house, your neighbor's gonna be like, "What's this guy doing?" Yeah, yeah.
right, and hopefully the neighbors across the street aren't doing something that they think is illegal, and then you might be tattling on them and
You turn it into a neighborhood feud.
right, like they don't know that they're there for a different reason. They could think that, hey, you called the cops and you're tattling on the person across the street, and I could see this just going so wrong so fast.
It could easily go very wrong. It is. It sounds crazy.
Yeah, and unfortunately, right now it looks like the governor may be signing this. Right now it's just pending, but he does have line item veto authority in the state of Florida, so hopefully he scratches it off, but I doubt that will be
We
the
can
case.
only hope.
Right. When it comes to spending money on law enforcement, there's no turning around once you spend it. So,
yeah.
So another story we have is out of Manchester, New Hampshire. This stems back to the Christmas season, where a man, I can't find his name, Alexander Ramsey, he was arrested during the Christmas time when he came upon a shopping cart that was unattended in a parking lot, and he found a DVD player and a purse in it, and he then proceeded to take those items and place them in his trunk, with what he claims is the where am I going with this? Is that he was going to go home and find the identification, in the, hopefully if there's a wallet in the purse or whatever, and then find the owner of the lost items. But these items happen to belong to the Manchester police. So they had put out this cart on purpose, hoping that someone would steal it, and then they busted him on the drive home.
No, so it was a setup.
It was a total setup.
Oh, what?
And this is one of those things. Like he says, he was testifying this week or last week, and he was saying that he's now scared just to pick up a quarter off the ground, or I mean, this is something that had been, he was saying he's going to bring it home, find identification, track down the owner, just like his mom did for a wallet that she found when he was younger. But yeah, I mean, this is one of those setups where there's a legitimate reason for somebody to take into their possession an item like this.
Well, yeah, you don't leave it sitting there, because then you know somebody else is going to jag it.
Right, somebody. Yeah, I'd rather have somebody who's going to take it with them and find the rightful owner than leave it there for it to get stolen and taken away for good. I mean, this is one of those situations where the they really did not think about this particular quote unquote sting. I mean, it's not even a sting. They're blatantly setting up good people that are trying to do the right thing, but now he's being charged with theft of these items when all he was going to do was try to find the person it belonged to and get it back to them. I mean, this is not like it's a rare occurrence, especially around the holidays. You know, they come out of a mall or whatever with a ton of stuff, and you know they're unloading. They got unruly kids or whatever, and they don't realize that they left a couple things in the cart and drove away. I mean, this is not unheard of. It happens all the time. So now what the police are basically saying is, don't be a good person and return items to the rightful owner, because you might get arrested for it.
Yeah, because we might have set it all up just to arrest you for it.
Right, because it might be the police's.
That's sad. It's a sad day when you got the police trying to set people up for stuff like that.
I mean,
whether or not the guy actually was trying to steal it or not, but the fact that the police had to try to set something up like that is what bothers me.
Right, and one of the things that the judge has actually given them time to go, like 20 days to go research the laws on this particular situation, on what is a reasonable amount of time to give somebody to return the items to a rightful owner in this type of situation. I mean, they pulled him over on the way home, so it's not like he even got to the point where your average person would be able to locate the owner. I mean, these days, if you find a wallet or whatever, you would go home, look up the person's address, or try to find them on Google or whatever. It's not like unless you have
Facebook,
a smartphone, of course, but
yeah.
You're gonna go home and try to find the owner. I mean, it's not like what's he gonna do between the parking lot and his house? I mean, a reasonable person could do that.
I could see someone bringing up the argument of why didn't he go through it there, but I don't blame him for that. I mean, you're in a busy parking lot like that, shopping, you're by yourself, there's a purse, somebody sees you rumbling through it, people are going to be like, what are you doing?
Right.
So I don't blame him for putting it in his trunk and trying to go home to go through it at home so that he didn't have somebody trying to blame him for something.
Right, and one of the things he said, that he didn't want to be sitting there rummaging through a purse in a parking lot. And another thing that happened is he put it in his trunk and then went in to go shopping. But that's not an unreasonable thing to do either.
Well,
and they're like,
somebody else is going to take it, so he takes it in his possession and holds it until he's done doing what he's doing.
Right, and this is during the Christmas season, so putting it in the trunk isn't exactly a non.
It's a smart thing to do.
It's right. You don't want to have a purse sitting on your front seat or in your back seat or whatever, because then somebody could just see it, break into the car and take it. I mean, it's not unreasonable for him to put it in the trunk and take it.
I wouldn't put my purse on the front. If I had a purse.
So it's just really ridiculous that that they even saw fit to, one, how did they even have the time to do this? Well, they don't have better things to do.
Yeah, I thought there was shoplifting on those types of seasons. I mean, you shouldn't be watching for shoplifting, not some guy taking a purse outside.
Right, that seems to be abandoned or forgotten. I mean, it's not like a car.
Like he ran up and took it from some lady.
Right.
In a shopping cart. It was left.
I mean, I understand when they put out cars and then those get stolen, like bait cars, but
I still have problems with those.
It depends.
It's dirty. It's dirty.
Yeah, but you can't really say, "Oh, I wasn't stealing it."
Well, no, once you get into it and drive away, it's like, yeah, you kind of took it.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a whole lot of going around it.
I mean, by leaving it sitting there running, it's just it's a temptation. I'm like, why would you do that to someone?
Yeah, but I mean, the people who would take it aren't exactly the type that needed a whole lot of coaxing, anyways. But still, it is a little dirty. Though I have seen one time where I don't know if you've ever watched the show that they have on I don't know what channel they have
I've
it on.
seen some of them, some of the stuff that they've done with that stuff.
But the idiots friggin' dropped the car off in like the edge of an intersection. So so actually a good Samaritan got in the car to move it to a safer location because it almost got hit by passing traffic like twice. So, but
did they try to arrest him too for doing that?
no, they let him go
okay.
because he actually just parked it like across the street, you know,
nice.
and then got out and then called the cops that hey, somebody left their car. But yeah, it's. Once you drive like 6 blocks away, at that point.
Well, yeah, at that point you're probably not turning around. You're going for your joyride.
But yeah, there's a little less ambiguity about a car versus a abandoned item.
Yeah,
it's not like but anyways. So back to Florida, we have a Miami cop who has been fired 8 times and is working on the 9th. Yeah. So this currently Sergeant German Bosk is facing his 9th firing for leaving his assault weapon with his girlfriend's father. His state-issued assault weapon.
Oh, no.
Yeah, while he was on leave for 8 days. So, obviously, the Opelika Police Department is not very happy with that and have asked to have him dismissed in front of an arbitration officer on Wednesday. Or last week, I guess. So... he's got a list of reasons why he's been fired in the past, and those include bashing the skull of a handcuffed suspect.
Oh no!
Beating criminals, having dope and booze in his squad car, ripping off suspects, and participating in an unauthorized chase that ended up killing 4 people. And calling in sick from Cancun.
From Cancun. And then, you had falsifying reports there, too.
Yeah.
Wow. This sounds like a great guy.
I mean, this is... So, and his attorney is hilarious because he says, it's allegations. Allegations are not convictions. And then he goes on to say, we have a system in place. And that's a fair system. He's been fired 8 times and put back, and he keeps getting rehired, which is just...
And that's a fair system?
Mind-boggling. From 3 different police departments.
I wish I could call in sick from Cancun. And then still get my job back.
One of the comments is hilarious because at the end of the article, it has him saying that I love serving the community and I love what I do for a living and I'm very proud. And then one of the comments to the article was, sure he loves his job because he knows he can get away with doing anything and he won't lose his job. So
he gets to go to Cancun for vacation, call in sick, and then still gets to come back and get paid. I would love my job too.
I mean, it's insane that he's been fired, and he's been fired 8 times from 3 different police departments, which means he has been fired and put back on the force at least twice in one of them. Or actually, yeah, pretty much at least twice in one of them, and probably more times. So it's totally insane.
Does no one read his job history report when they go to hire him on?
No, I mean this is not an isolated incident. This happens all the time, where the city fires them or the police department fires them, and then the union gets involved, and they go in front of this stupid review board, and this review board's obviously on the side of the union, and then they're like, oh, put him back on the force, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
sad.
I mean, this is like one of those cases that you look at it and you're like, something has to change. This is completely unacceptable. And
this is what we're talking about with accountability.
right,
It's
there
not
isn't
happening.
Any.
Yeah, it's not happening anywhere.
I mean, we pay the salaries for these people, but we have no say in who stays and who goes, and we have no say on how much money we have to fork over to them, because they'll send men with guns to your house, and these are the guys with the guns that will come to your house. So I mean, that's like extortion on the highest level, because they're the ones who are actually going to enforce the extortion of your tax dollars. So it's just sad.
It is sad.
So, you want to talk about what happened out in Seattle this week?
We can. I will touch base on it. I know I've read up on a lot of it, watched a lot of the videos, but as far as Seattle goes, on the west side there for May Day, from the people I've talked to and the posts that are up, there was basically, from the sounds of it, the march itself stayed pretty peaceful until the afternoon or late, early evening. It looks like the march through downtown was good, calm, peaceful. The police were good. I mean, there was a heavy police presence, but they were pretty well behaving themselves. It wasn't until later in the afternoon when they were trying to disperse the crowds that were, from what I can see in the videos, they were dispersing. May have been dragging their feet a little bit. I'm sure they're tired from walking all day, so they're not going to be like fast or anything. But the police department decided they wanted to start pepper spraying, smoke bombs, flash grenades. There's a video up on the Seattle Cop Block's YouTube page of a woman with a stroller with a baby. Now, I don't know if she was partaking in the protests or if she just happened to be a bystander coming out of a store, but they ended up throwing one of the flashbangs right next to the stroller, which, in my opinion, is completely wrong. Should have never happened. The police should know better than that. They can see. They're not blind. There's no point in throwing flash grenades up onto the sidewalk where bystanders are. I mean, if they're trying to get the crowds off the streets, you keep them on the streets. Let alone, I don't think they need to be used as heavily as they were. I mean, you watch the video, there's flashbangs going off constantly. Multiple different camera angles, multiples of them going off. I'm sure a lot of people are having hearing problems still from that event. The videos are hard to watch just because there's so many of them going off. It looks like there was some people arrested. There's a video of a gentleman that was on a pogo stick that was arrested, and his pogo stick was confiscated.
That's good.
Yeah, I thought it was good. There's also pictures coming out of people with bruised legs. I'm not sure if that's from baton beatings or what, but it looks that the afternoon got slightly violent. It looks to me that it could have gotten worse, and it didn't, and I'm happy that it didn't. But as far as excessive abuse, it doesn't look like it was too bad, to the extent of serious violence, which in my book is a good thing, because it could have been way worse. It could have gotten really ugly, and it stayed pretty decent. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, and the assistant chief, O'Donnell, something like that.
I think that's his name.
McDonough. He said, "It's unfortunate that someone brought a child to this event. Mm-hmm. They had a number of times to disperse, and they chose to stay." Mm-hmm. As if that's an excuse for throwing that makes it so okay. Many. Yeah, that makes it okay to throw flash grenades at at innocent bystanders. Yeah, I mean, it's not like this was in a unpopulated area. I mean, there were restaurants and all this down there. I mean,
a main street where there's always foot traffic on the sidewalks. There's businesses. There's always going to be bystanders.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't take into account. They think everybody is involved, regardless if you're down there for your regular. Hey, I always go to this restaurant on Saturday or Monday or whatever.
Or maybe I came down to watch the protests. I'm not actually involved in the I came down to see what was happening.
Right. I mean, this harkens back to the when the Boston Red Sox won the World Series a few years back, and they were shooting rubber bullets and tear gas, and they ended up killing an innocent person who was walking down the street because one of the projectiles that they were firing hit her in the eye. I mean, and she wasn't even involved with any of the stuff that was going on, and it's ridiculous that they think that any collateral damage is acceptable.
Yeah. No, there's no reason to use force like that. You can have the crowds disperse in other positive ways. There's other ways of doing it that don't have to be as violent. We don't need to use projectiles. There's much calmer ways of doing it. It may take longer, but if it saves people from getting hurt, good. Let it take all day. People will get over it.
Yeah, there's no need. I mean, this is like you always hear about this kind of stuff before recent years, only happening over in like Europe and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh, we'll never get that crazy, but it's not the participants who are making it to that level. It's the police jumping to that level first before any of this type of response is necessary. They escalate it to that level right away. And
I can see what you're saying there. Yeah, if the crowd did get out of hand and okay, they weren't dispersing, they got violent, then I could see using slightly stronger force to get them to disperse. But again, comes the fact they weren't. So to bring the police's force to that level of violence is unnecessary.
Right. There was no need to push the level that they did, and it's just sad that it kind of went that way.
Yeah. Well, it sounded like it from the get-go that they were ready for it. They wanted to do it. I mean, they upped their police presence. They said they weren't going to take any crap. It was very obvious that the police almost were. They almost won. That's what it seemed like from the get-go. They planned on making it get ugly, and it looks like they held themselves back for most of the day until the end, and then they started getting pushy and jumpy. So
right, when they could have just stayed where they were and let people disperse naturally, like people are going to do. They're not going to hang around all day
long. They're not going to hang out all night. Yeah.
Right. And so what? Even if they did, I mean, there's no need to push them out when you know right then it's going to cause trouble.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
They're not going to. Not all of them are going to stay there all night. They're going to go home. You might have some that are going to stay, and you can peacefully remove them. There's no necessary reason for flashbangs and using their bicycles as they were. I don't know if you saw any of the videos, but the bicycle line was pretty ugly looking. It literally makes them look like a very large group of gang members that are complete cowards. Yes, they literally do. They pick their bikes up and they like shove them at your face. I mean, you could see the one guy in one of the videos. The cop picks up his bike like over his shoulders and shoves his bicycle at the face of a guy. I don't know if he was a protester, bystander, film guy, but he's standing in front of the officer, and the bike gets like thrown almost into his face. And I mean, you're talking about the pedal right at his face, which is unnecessary, completely unnecessary.
I know it's a show. It's a act to make people compliant.
Force. Yeah, it's unnecessary. There's no reason to try to intimidate like that.
Yeah, they're saying you do what we tell you to do, and
or else.
Or else, exactly. Because I mean, there are people who are just standing there who want. What if I wanted to go to the restaurant on the other side of the police line?
Mm-hmm.
They would beat the crap out of me if I even tried to. It's like I'm just going to try to get dinner. I mean, why is this public space suddenly restricted from my presence there? If I just want to stand here, what's the problem?
Mm-hmm.
If I want to stand on the sidewalk, what's your problem with that?
Yeah.
So you had following up that you had a marathon.
We did, yeah. Spokane had our yearly Bloomsday Marathon, which is basically a much smaller version of the Boston Marathon. It's done once a year here. Has been happening for many years. I've partaken in it before. I didn't this year. I didn't have time. Didn't have time to train for it. I've been very busy with Cop Block.
Well, it sounded pretty huge. It said 50,000 attendees.
Yeah, it's a big event. I mean, there's a lot of people that show up for this. The sad part this year is the police state that was brung in this year, which don't get me wrong, I understand Boston happened, but again, comes the fact of, is it really necessary? I mean, we proved with Boston they did all those measures and it didn't stop anything. Basically, here in Spokane, we had Border Patrol, FBI, bomb sniffing dogs. We had helicopters. I actually seen the helicopters from up here at my house, where I live. Could visually look down towards the downtown area and see helicopters flying around, which was ugly in my opinion. I don't like to see helicopters flying around in circles over my downtown area.
when I saw that and I saw Border Patrol, what the hell is Border Patrol doing down there?
Well, the weird piece is we actually have multiple Border Patrol offices in our area here. There's actually one not very far to the north of me, and then we also have one downtown. The reason for that is, I think their main excuse for having the Border Patrol here, we are basically the biggest city closest to Canada from where we're at right now.
But it's still like 150 miles away, isn't it?
I think it's actually less than 100, which puts us in that line that they call the border still.
Yeah.
Constitution free zone because we're too close to the border.
Yeah, you're actually in Canada.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Somehow I'm in Canada. But yeah, because we're that close, it seems to be that's why they're doing that. The issue I have, I've actually had an issue and run in with Border Patrol here in town where I was actually pulled over by Border Patrol, and received multiple tickets for the vehicle I was driving. Went to court and got the whole entire thing dismissed because of the fact that at the time they considered that Border Patrol agent out of his jurisdiction. Which was...
I hope so, but still. Is Border Patrol going to pull you over for traffic infringements?
They did. It happened to me.
I've never heard that Border Patrol can pull you over for traffic infringements.
That's why I questioned the whole thing. That's why I questioned the whole thing, took it to court. I was like, why is Border Patrol pulling me over? I'm in Spokane, not Canada.
Yeah, I see from the Spokane police chief.
Mm-hmm.
He said when you go downtown, you're going to see a lot of uniformed police officers. You're going to notice the helicopters in the air. We want you to notice them.
Yeah, that was the sad quote I saw in there. Was he wanted us to notice, and I'm like, I don't want to see that.
Right. No. This harkens back to, what was it, like Austin earlier this year, where they had the military style drills and had the helicopters firing blanks.
Yes, didn't they do that over Vegas too? They were shooting blanks over Vegas or something like that too.
I don't know if it was specifically Vegas, but I know it was in Texas. At least one of them happened. But I mean, this is like, we want you to notice that you are in a police state.
Yeah, we're gonna blatantly flaunt the fact that we are in a police state.
Right,
we want you to be paranoid all the time. Yeah, we want you to be afraid constantly.
It also says that backpacks were banned from the event.
That comes down to multiple years ago with the backpacks, the attempted backpack bombing that happened a few years back. I think I mixed it up last episode. I had talked about that. From what I understand, I think it was not the Bloomsday Parade that had happened at. It was actually our Lilac Parade, where there was an attempted backpack bombing where the backpack was found before it ever was detonated and it was removed. Again, comes the fact we don't know if it was actually going to go off or if it was legit, because of course none of us get to see this. They tell us what They say they found a backpack bomb, they got rid of it, and it never went off. That's all they tell us. Um,
I mean, can they even? How can they possibly ban backpacks from a public space? It just
yeah,
seems odd.
yeah, I don't. Basically, when they do the Bloomsday, there's it's obviously like any marathon. Certain streets are shut down for the runners, and it's basically a police line set up around that street all the way down. And so basically, they keep backpacks from coming anywhere near close to that. Again, comes the fact of it's kind of a constitutional violation.
Well, do you happen to know who sponsors the particular race? Is it a private entity?
um, I think I don't actually know 100%. I would have to look into that. I don't want to say I don't want to guess and get it wrong and make myself look bad. So I will look into that and I will figure that out. But I
Yeah,
know
because
it's a huge event. It's so many people show up for it. It brings so many people in the town over this weekend. Businesses thrive. It's great for our community here as an event, just as any event like that in any community is. Um,
yeah, I know in at least in Ohio, and I'm sure it's like that in most places. If a private entity,
mhm.
gets a permit to use a public space during that permitted time, that public space is technically a private space to the people who are permitted to use it. So
True.
it could
I
be
would.
possibility that it's a private entity who has permitted out this, and they're using it, claiming it as private property during that set time. You never know.
I will look into that though, and I will find out and see if that's what it is. Because then, yeah, then they can ban what they want technically.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
we had the same thing. We actually had a half marathon here in Columbus on Saturday, and I was reading prior to the marathon that all bags are going to be subject to search and the beefed up security and whatnot. So I didn't make the trek down there. I kind of wanted to, but it was too early. I
I
didn't
did
want to
I
get
did
up.
too, but with the stuff I had going on that morning, and then looking down there and seeing the helicopters, I just almost really didn't want to involve myself with what I
Yeah,
had going on.
it was
If I
probably
would have
just
had more company to go down with me, I'm sure I would have went down there. I would have filmed the crap out of it, and yeah, showed you guys what Blue State looks like. Speaking of that, you got some video the other night of what our police state looks like.
yeah. I was kind of bored. It was Cinco de Mayo weekend, so I figured there were going to be a lot of checkpoints, DUI checkpoints in this area, and there were a lot over the state of Ohio this weekend. There were two or three, maybe more on Friday. There were three or four that I know of on Saturday, and rarely is there one around the Columbus area. They're usually over in Dayton or in the Cleveland area or the northern part of the state. So it's kind of rare that they pop up in central Ohio, which is where I am. So one happened to pop up out in Pataskala, which is I don't know, maybe 15 minutes outside of the outside of the city. It's probably not even that far actually. Um, but I decided to drive through it and see what was up. So I set my cell phone to record, and I went through it, and I gave them pretty much non-answers, which was really fun. I'm
It
surprised
was it was a
I'm
good
surprised I
video.
didn't get
I
harassed.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was pretty fun. I was kind of nervous because I had never gone through a checkpoint before with taking this particular tact. Um, I've driven through a couple of the checkpoints that have been in Central Ohio, but I wasn't lucky enough to stop, and I actually drove through one of the checkpoints like 3 times and never got stopped. So this one was out in Pataskala. There weren't a whole lot of cars, so I mean there was no car in front of me or behind me, so it was kind of like out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm kind of bummed about that because they picked the perfect spot to put it, where um, people like myself and media wouldn't be able to walk to this location because it is on a numbered route, and I wouldn't have been able to park my car within like a half mile on either side.
Oh
So
no.
I was really bummed about that. I had brought my camera and all that stuff. So, anyways, I drove through. He's like, the guy asked where you're going, and I said somewhere, and he said, "What?" I couldn't hear you. And I said, "Does that matter?" And he asked, "Well, you're at a DUI checkpoint, and I'm legally allowed to have a conversation with you to make sure you're not intoxicated." I'm like, and then I just said, "Just driving." And he said, "Where are you coming from?" And I'm like, "Just driving." And then on the way out, he said, "You." I don't remember the exact words now, but it's something along the lines like, "You've been pleasant." And then
Some sort of enjoyable conversation remark,
yes, that was
basically.
it. Yeah, this has been you've been enjoyable tonight. And then I drove off, and it was pretty funny.
It
So
was good. I was impressed with how the officer handled himself. I really when you sent me the link on the phone and said you had just gone through the checkpoint and you had video of it, and I popped it up on my phone. I was at work and watched it real quick, and I was like, how did you not get harassed more? I mean,
I
really?
know I was surprised, especially because of my smart ass answer to begin with. I said, "Does somewhere," when he
They
asked where
must
I
have
was going.
they must have known you were coming or something. I mean, you put it up on Facebook, didn't you? I'm going through the checkpoint, and they knew you were coming, so they're like, we're not gonna mess with this guy.
I know I was really, really bummed because I was not expecting his comment at the end, and I really wish I was expecting it because I would have said, "Yes, this has been pleasant. We should do it again sometime," and then drive off. But maybe that will be in my
I was
quiver for next time.
I was surprised at how well you held yourself to the end before you busted up laughing about it. I assumed you would start laughing right as he said it, and you would drive away laughing. Yeah,
That was
that was
pretty
good.
funny.
You did a great job on that. It was a really good checkpoint video. Good
Yeah,
stuff. It was
so
short, sweet, to the point, and nobody got harassed. It was good stuff.
I'm surprised it went so quickly.
Yep.
Like I thought it was going to be there for a little while.
Yeah. Yep. Did
But
barely rolled your window down, which was perfect. It was
yes, that
great.
too. I only you could probably only get about a fist inside the crack of the
Yeah.
window, and that's a
Great.
measure that anybody should
Mhm.
take,
It's
so
a
they
great
can't reach
technique.
in and
Yep.
unlock your door or whatever.
Or
Like
anything. They don't need to come into your personal space. So you're inside your
right,
car. That's your own personal private space. They don't need to enter it.
they can't stick their head in and sniff
Mhm.
you and all that stuff.
Yep.
So
Try to say they smell drugs or something.
right.
Sorry, I haven't taken a shower in 3 days. No. All right, so moving on. What did you want to touch on now? I know we got a couple more things to touch on.
So this is out of Photography is Not a Crime. Carlos Miller. Oh, didn't you get contacted by Carlos Miller?
I did actually. I was called by Carlos on. Oh, geez, what was that? Was that Saturday night? Saturday
Yeah, I
evening?
think that's when you called me, being like, "Oh crap."
Yeah, I was. I was pretty excited. I was like, Carlos Miller just called me. That was crazy. It was. It was fun. I actually the whole big story here. So I'm not really concerned about it. I'm kind of like let it happen. If it does, well, it'll be entertaining.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot they can
There's
mess
really
with you
nothing
with.
they can do. But basically, I was contacted by a close friend of mine that has made it apparent to me. He has police officers in his extended family. Well, these police officers know that who I work for and what I do as a living, and recognize the name of the company that I work for. And then noticed the fact that my name was on there and let my friend know. And so basically, he approached me and told me that it sounds like it's like an APB or a person of interest tag in the computer system on the police computer. I don't know exactly how it's worded technically, but that the police department, or at least a few of the individuals in the police department here in Spokane, are actually looking for me and want to make contact with me because of the last video that I shot for Spokane Cop Block. An incident happened outside my residence with a car accident. The gentleman was very rude and disrespectful to me, and so I pulled my camera out, public setting, to protect myself because he was very angry that I was watching what was going on without my camera at first.
This
So
was
I,
the driver. Or
yeah, the driver of the vehicle, not the police officer, of the incident that brung the police to the area. So I bring the camera out to protect myself and the other people around. and as soon as he noticed I was recording, got a little upset about it. Walked away. I called the police because obviously he'd left the scene of an accident, and it was a little bit more than a minor accident. The circumstances were definitely confusing. Basically, the blunt story is there's a giant cement wall behind my fourplexes back here, and the gentleman ran straight into the wall. So when you do something like that, it's kind of obvious there's something going on.
Yeah, when you hit a stationary object, that is usually a problem.
I mean, it's clearly marked. It's a dead end. It's kind of hard to miss it. It's a giant cement wall. It literally, it's probably a good 90 feet tall. I mean, it's hard to miss.
It's like running into a building.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, there's a 3-story apartment next to it, and the wall's actually taller than the 3-story apartment. So I mean, it's not like he just missed it. So the police ended up showing up. I kept the camera rolling. The officer started taking statements from people, and I stood back and was keeping my distance. I was on the sidewalk, trying not to be disrespectful. And these are my neighbors. I didn't want to intrude on their conversation with the officer, so I stood back. The officer then approached me and my wife at the time and asked us what had happened, and then noticed that I was recording and asked me if I was, and I politely told her that I was, and she politely asked me to shut it off, and I politely refused.
She wasn't very happy with it.
And she became very unhappy about my refusal. And I stumbled a little bit. I was a little nervous just because the whole circumstance of what happened with the gentleman with the driver trying to approach me. It seemed like he was trying to fight me. So I was a little on edge.
How dare you question my authority?
Yeah, I was a little on edge, and so I stumbled my words around a little bit when she asked me why I wouldn't shut it off, and I told her it was my right. And I fumbled a little bit. I was nervous. One of my more, I don't know, I wouldn't call it the first confrontation with police in that position, but I've only done it a few times, so it still kind of makes me nervous at times to question their authority, and they can be intimidating, and it's completely true. I mean, I do what I can on the show and act like I'm not intimidated, but when they really get in your face, it's intimidating.
They have a gun.
Yeah,
and they're not afraid to use it.
Yeah, we've proven that they're not afraid to use the guns. Yeah. So I stumbled a little bit, told her I wasn't going to shut it off, and she basically accepted it and said that as long as it's on record that she stated that she didn't want it recorded, that it was whatever, it was good to go. And so I was all right. So I kept recording. Then she ended up approaching me again and said that if I didn't stop recording or leave, that I was interfering with her investigation. Again, keep in mind, I was still on the sidewalk, hadn't moved, was clearly away from the accident by a little ways, away from her police car, away from everyone else she was talking to. So it's not like I was up in people's faces. Well, come to find out, like I said, my friend that told me about it, the police are unhappy about the fact that I refused to shut my camera off. And so I've been warned basically that the police department or certain individuals in the police department in my local area are attempting to, I don't know what they're attempting to do, but it sounds like they either want to talk to me or try to intimidate me for recording this female officer. I was also told that the female officer, the police officers that let my friend know, have spoken with this female officer, and she has apologized for her behavior. Hasn't apologized to me or anyone else, but she may not know how to contact me. I mean, obviously she knows where I live, so I mean, if she wanted to, she really could. But I guess she claims that she was in a bad mood, having a bad day, and I understand that. That's completely fine. I mean, at least she didn't arrest me or anything like that for keeping recording, which was a positive. But it is slightly concerning to me that the police department wants to come after me for not breaking any law whatsoever and doing what was completely my constitutional rights.
Yeah, I'm curious how they. I've never seen this tactic used, and I don't know why. Yeah. When people are maybe it's just nerves and nobody thinks about it at the time, or never thought about it ahead of time. When questioned about recording or whatnot, you are technically a member of the press at all times. You are a citizen, so you can be a member of the press. And I'm surprised that nobody has pulled out well, if I work for channel X, fill in the local,
Yeah.
ABC or NBC
Yeah.
affiliate. If I worked for them, would you be giving me the same hard time,
Yeah.
or
Would you be
or
attempting to contact me because I recorded a police officer?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Mm.
I mean, when there was a checkpoint here before, I mean, NBC was down there doing a story. I mean, it's not like uh,
Yeah.
there's no difference between an NBC affiliate and you
Yeah. No. And again
in
comes
the
the
eyes of
public
anything.
setting, completely in a public setting. No expectation of privacy when in public. The way the state laws and RCWs sit in the state of Washington, I was completely following the law. I didn't I when she asked, I announced. I mean, I guess I could have announced it before she asked, but even then, coming at the fact that she's a police officer and we're in a public setting, I technically legally don't have to even state the fact that I'm doing that. But as a respect, I did, and in future times now when I do it, I will blatantly, loudly be be demonstrating the fact that I am video and audio recording.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which is a
the
good thing to do anyway.
even the most strictest of states when it comes to recording,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the most restrictive is as long as you are not doing it secretively,
Mm-hmm.
then they can't really do anything if you're in public.
Uh,
I mean, if
uh,
you're holding a camera out in front of your face or your phone like you are recording,
yeah.
that is notification enough that you are recording and you are not doing it secretively, and
And
that's usually where it comes from.
the camera I was using, it's not. I wasn't using my telephone. It's a handheld camera. Sits in my hands. Got the little strap on it. Big old thing. Side face screen comes off the side of it, right in front of my face. I mean, it's half blocking my face. Kind of hard to not notice I'm doing something with a camera.
Right. So even the most strictest of states, that is perfectly legal, and you don't have to announce that you're recording as long as you are blatantly recording.
It's nice though to do it though as a common courtesy to others around. I mean, there's other private individuals around or other or citizens that are around that wish to not be recorded. They have the choice to then leave if they don't want to still be there and be recorded. I mean, that would be
Right,
the common courtesy of announcing that the fact that you are video and audio recording so that someone has the opportunity to leave if they wish to.
right, and the most important part is the expectation of privacy. Obviously, you can still have an expectation of privacy even when you are out in public, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're sitting on a park bench talking to somebody, you
No, I
have
can't.
an
I can't come in.
expectation.
I can't just walk up and put my camera next to you guys and be like, "I'm
Right,
recording this."
right. You still have a expectation of privacy of that conversation being private because
Yep.
you are obviously not in a crowd talking and all that jazz.
Yeah,
So
and if you
the
notice, if you look at my video from that incident with that female officer, it's edited, and I took out most of the conversations that officer had with the other witnesses. I was far enough away you could still hear it, but it's hard to hear. But I still took it out of the respect of my neighbors, wishing to not be on it. And basically, the only parts I show are involvement with the police officer.
Right, and that's a valid point to make. That you want to at least, if you can, and it's not critical to the narrative,
Yeah.
is to respect the privacy of private individuals. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, since she's a police officer, she is not a private individual,
Nope.
and
Has no expectation of privacy
right,
whatsoever.
pretty much at all times when they're out in public. So.
Yep. On the job and in public, yeah, they have no expectation.
So this topic has come up. Uh, it's been blowing up in the past couple of days with Adam Kokesh.
Yes.
He has organized or is working on organizing a armed march protest,
Civil disobedience.
civil disobedience, because it is
Yes.
illegal to have the particular firearm that you'll be carrying in Washington, D.C., and they're planning on starting across the river from D.C., outside of D.C. where it's legal, and then
Walking
marching their
across,
way
was it
Washington.
across the bridge and around
Yeah,
the circle and back?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the march route details yet, but this
Let's see if
is
I can
definitely
see.
interesting so far. Actually, before we started the show, he was at 2,500 people saying they were going. he
Some
was
good
hoping to
numbers.
get yeah he was hoping to get 10,000, which in if anybody's tried to organize an event before, you can pretty much only expect a tenth of what you of who say they're going to show up. So he's hoping to get 10,000 saying they're going, and hopefully at least 1,000 people show up.
Yep.
And and this has been blowing up over all types of
Oh, everywhere. I got an article pulled up right here from USA Today. It says Washington police and U.S. Parks police say they will confront the open carry marchers if they step across the border dividing Virginia from the District of Columbia. Washington residents can have registered firearms only on their property, not in public.
yeah, and there's been a lot of detractors, saying that, well, it's not legal to do it, so I'm not going to go do it. And apparently they don't understand the point of civil disobedience,
Yes,
where
the point of
the
it.
whole point is violating the law.
Mm-hmm.
But since there's no victim, it's not a valid law to
Yeah.
begin with. So that's what Adam is going for.
I love the idea that he's going for a civil disobedience. I love the idea of an unjust law like that is blatantly unnecessary, and to disobey it like that. I love the idea, especially if you got a mass like that, a mass group like that that's going to do it with you. I love the way how they're setting up ways to make it look basically to protect themselves and anyone else around by they're only allowing certain weapons to be carried in this march. Or Adam has requested that only certain weapons be used. These weapons must be slung across the back, so that it makes it safer. The police aren't. Hopefully, the police won't then just open fire on people because they have a gun. Because it's obviously in a place that is unreachable quickly, and the weapons that they will be carrying are I mean, they can do damage, but in the way that they're going to carry them, it's a great show force, basically, in my opinion. It's a show of non-cowarding civil disobedience, basically.
Right, and I'm kind of disturbed about it's not the people involved who want to go and commit the act of civil disobedience. It's the opposition who is making this out to be an armed assault
Yeah.
on the Capitol, and it's anything but.
No.
If anybody has listened to Adam Kokesh in the past,
If you
3 or
don't,
4 years,
I would recommend doing it.
yeah, he's all about the nonviolence and your personal rights of being able to own property, and that's the standpoint he comes from, is that you're allowed to own property, and that trumps regardless of what shape that particular piece of property is in. And how this whole thing came about is I listen to, he's pretty much the only podcast that I'm currently listening to almost daily. The original idea seemed really off the cuff when he originally proposed it, because he was just coming off of the marijuana protest in Philadelphia, where there were a lot of people who showed up and were openly smoking marijuana in front of the police, and the police didn't do anything because there were so many people there. So from that, he off the cuff said, well, why don't we get a whole bunch of people to march across the bridge into Washington, D.C. carrying firearms, which is illegal, but it victimizes no one. And will the police take the same tack? There's so many of them that we're just going to let them do what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where the whole original thing came off of. It wasn't, hey, let's have an armed march against the government.
No, it's not anything like that at all. No.
It was, let's break this unjust law as a group, and see what happens with the police there. But beyond some really outlandish scenarios, I don't see, as long as this happens, I don't see the government coming out clean on the other side. They're going to look bad no matter what happens, except for those really crazy outlandish situations. Either they're not going to do anything, which is going to make them look bad because they're not enforcing the law,
they're not
which
enforcing
then
the law,
then shows everybody else, hey,
we can
since
break
there was
laws.
we can break laws.
Yeah.
If they're unjust laws, there's no reason to follow them in the first place. If they arrest everybody, they're going to look bad because these people are doing nothing. They're a peaceful protest who just happen to be carrying a particular piece of metal with them. Or the worst happens and the government actually turns to violence, and they'd come out horrible on the other side too. So I don't see them coming out.
That would make that just horrible. That would turn something into something that it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, and I just don't see the
I'm not
government
going to go into
coming out.
details, but that wouldn't be good.
Right. I don't see them coming out on top in any of these scenarios that could possibly happen as long as this happens.
No.
And some people obviously are going to be wary of the type of civil disobedience that they do and what the penalty for breaking this particular law is. And at the very least, as long as enough people show up, if anybody goes across, Adam's at least going across by himself. At least that will happen, because that is what he does. He will blatantly walk across, and I'm interested to see what happens in general anyways.
Oh, I'm very interested to see what happens out of this too. And the part that makes it even worse to me is the fact that it's illegal to do that in Washington, D.C.
Arbitrary lines on a map.
Yeah, that's ridiculous to me. And we're talking about the United States of America, the land of the free, but yet we can't carry
some
guns.
Restrictions
we can't. Apply. Yeah, some restrictions may apply. Basically, we can't carry guns on our own capital to flex our own rights. I mean, that's basically what they're doing. They're flexing rights to be able to carry.
And, why is it legal?
I mean, this country is so much founded on guns that to not be allowed to do it on a certain piece of property, that the piece of property that represents our country as a whole, even there we can't do it. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, why is it legal 100 feet from here, but it's illegal here?
I can't do it on the land I can't do it on the land that represents me as a country. Yeah.
Right. There's nothing different between that land and this land. It's just arbitrary lines, and it's ridiculous that not even in the capital can you protect yourself outside of your own home.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, what are we supposed to do if something ever happens? We need to protect our capital. Well, I can't defend it. I'm not allowed to have a gun on that property.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, sorry, I can't stand in front of the White House and protect the president because I can't hold a gun there.
Oops.
Guess that sucks for you.
Yeah. Hope you have enough people. But, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. So
it is.
I'm interested to see what comes out of that. There was about 2,500 people already signed up, and he only started it maybe 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah, it started getting big. Yesterday or the day before?
Yeah, it kind of grew synergistically. It kind of started off with 100 and 300, and then 500, and then it hit 1,000 as this morning, and it's up 1,500 from where it was this morning. So at about midnight-ish, it was about 1,000, and now it's at 2,500 or more.
Oh wow!
So it's growing fast, and he's been on some of the national talk shows.
He has.
I know he's been on the Crazy Person talk show, aka Alex Jones. But hey, you got what's as the saying goes, no press is bad press, or whatever.
No, everybody's got their own opinion and their ways they explain things. It's Alex Jones or not. I mean, he tends to get a little rambled off in his head sometimes. But he's still a U.S. citizen, and I still respect him for what he does. He's got the balls to get on the radio and talk about whatever. Good for him. I may not agree with him on everything, but that's my own right, and he's allowed to say what he wants. Yeah,
Adam's been making the rounds, and it's been blowing up quickly, so we'll see how it goes from there. And that's about it.
So then what? You got You want the Des Moines police officer?
Yeah, oh crap, I didn't even pull that up. I found that while I was on the can. Right before the show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you want to
Nice.
take it away? Because
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't.
Okay, so we got Des Moines, Iowa. Yeah, we got a decorated police officer accused of kicking a man in the head has been fired following an internal review. Colin Boone was fired May 1st after officials determined he used unreasonable force against a Des Moines police spokesman, Sergeant. According to Des Moines police spokesman Sergeant Jason Halifax, Boone. Wow, Boone is accused of kicking Orville Hill or Orville. Wow, jeez, I can't talk.
Yeah, it's Orville.
Orville Hill, 27 years old, in the head on February 19th as officers responded to a one-vehicle crash into a concrete barrier. Halifax said Hill acted erratically and tried to pull the car in gear and drive away. He pulled. Oh, tried to put. Sorry, I read that wrong. The officer had to break the car window physically to pull Hill out. He was not cooperative and was taken into custody. Two officers responded to the incident before Boone arrived. And Boone later kicked Hill once in the head once he was on the ground. Officers later told the department that they thought Boone's behavior was inappropriate.
Now, see, that's where I find it amazing. That is actually the other officers that said that Boone was completely out of line.
It's sad when you have to. You broke his window, you yanked him out of the car, he's on the ground, and you still felt it was necessary to kick him in the head.
Yeah, and he wasn't even the one on the scene when they pulled him out of the car. He came up later.
Oh, so this guy walks up after he's been. Oh, wow, that's ridiculous. So I'm a police officer. I show up on the scene after these cops have yanked this guy out of the car, broken his window, thrown him on the ground, and I walk up and I'm like, oh, look at this criminal, wham, just kick him in the head.
Yeah. So
I mean, really?
One of the was it one of the other officers? Yeah, one of the other officers said, obviously we're allowed to use force in an arrest, but there's a line we can't cross, and it crossed the line in this instance. So,
well, good for the other officer. Good for him.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna get fired at some point.
No, probably he'll get retired.
That's kind of how it goes.
Because he stopped some violence, or attempted to stop violence.
And then that seems the way that it goes. But hopefully, I wish there were more cops that would
stand up to other cops like that.
Clean out the ranks of the people who should not be there.
Good for this cop, and give him obvious props for standing up to this other officer. It's good for him.
So yeah, I mean, this guy had been in the department for 13 years, and he was. So
this is a decorated, honored officer.
Yeah, he pulled. He was involved in pulling 3 people from a burning SUV in 2011. But they also the Des Moines Register is also reporting that he was sued over an excessive force incident in 2009, where a woman claimed that Boone fractured her arm during an arrest and later lied about it. So.
It says here that he still has 2 weeks to appeal this termination. So this could be another one of those fired 8 times and brung back still.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we don't see that. That just happened. Actually, it was just published today.
Yep, published up today on the Associated Press. Yep.
So we'll see how that goes in the future.
Yeah. But yeah, good for that officer.
Yep. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. You got anything else?
Off the top of my head, no, not really.
All right. So
I think.
Hmm?
Well, I know we're gonna attempt to do an interview later this week.
Yep.
I know I'm waiting for Travis that we had on last week with our interview from Seattle Cop Block. I spoke with him a little bit today. He said he's still not feeling very well from all the smoke grenades and flashbangs. So I told him he'd take his time whenever he's feeling good enough to come on and touch up and go over everything that happened in Seattle over May Day. We get him on and we talk with him about what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully we can have other people on. If you're involved in any of the, Peaceful Street Project or Cop Block or any of those other organizations, and you'd like to tell us what is going on in your neck of the woods, please feel free to reach out to us at CopBlockRadioShow@gmail.com. And I think that's it for this week. My name's Eric. You can find me over at freerockpress.com and Ohio Cop Block. And with me tonight, I had Adam from Spokane Cop Block. And yeah, I think that's it. So everybody stay safe. And until next week, remember that badges don't grant